invite you, if you would like, I have a little note section in your bulletin to help you as we move along here. And you're going to need it as we start off, actually, first. But let's review real quick. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been going through and we've started a series called Impact. We've been looking at what it means and how we can make an impact. Make an impact in our family lives, make an impact in our the lives of the people in which we work with, our co-workers, make an impact in our community, make an impact in our nation, in our world. And specifically, we've been looking at in the last couple weeks about how we can make an impact while serving within and through our church. And so the first week we looked at the fact that we need to be the light. We need to be the light of Christ. We need to be the light of Christ and shine the light that is Christ's love and life and joy to others as we serve. And by doing that, that impacts the lives of others. Last week we looked at the fact that we looked at shape. We looked at what our shape was. We looked at the ways in which we can discover our shape. God has each made us unique and individuals. And He's crafted and molded and created us for a purpose. In our uniqueness, we've been shaped for a unique purpose. A unique way, a unique place, a unique ministry in which we can serve, in which we can impact others for Him. And today we're going to be looking at generosity. But we start off with a question, and it's in your little notes bulletin. Pull out your notes bulletin. You're going to need it here over the next minute here. And also, you'll need a pen or a pencil. Does anybody need a pen or a pencil? Does anybody need a pen or a pencil? Because you're going to need one. Make sure you have one. If you don't have one in your hand, you need one. Raise your hand if you need a pen or a pencil. Anybody? All right. You've all been forewarned. So, with this in your hand and with a pencil or a pen in your other hand, I want us to ask yourself the question, what would you do if you had $1 million? What would you do if you had $1 million? If crazy, beyond crazy, you inherited $1 million, you won $1 million, you earned $1 million, what would you do if you had $1 million? I want you to take 1 minute and think about, and fill out that on this little sheet here. And as you think about that, listen to this song.
If I had $1 million, if I had $1 million, well, I'd buy you a house. I would buy you a house. If I had $1 million, if I had $1 million, buy you furniture for your house, maybe a nice Chesterfield or an Autumn. If I had $1 million, if I had $1 million, well, I'd buy you a cake car, a nice ride on a whole wheel. If I had $1 million, I'd buy you love. If I had $1 million, I'd sell the tree for $1
So what would you do if you had $1 million? Maybe it would be buy a new house, bigger house, larger house, first house. Maybe it would be buying a car. Maybe it'd be paying off all your debt. I don't know about you, but I have a favorite car. It'd be the first thing if I somehow had $1 million. There's a special car. I would buy an antique Porsche Roadster. Antique Porsche Roadster. It has to be convertible. I'd either like black or white. Black or white antique Porsche Roadster is probably what I would buy. Anyway, that's what I would buy. The first thing I'd buy with $1 million. You don't have to have $1 million to buy one, but that's probably what I would do if I have that particular amount of income. What would you do with $1 million? There's so many things that we could do with that kind of money. But the truth is that God has given us, He has graciously given us time, talents, and treasure, our money. He's given enough of that, so generously given so much of time, talent, and treasure to each of us that it's worth more than $1 million in the end, because He has so graciously given us in so many different ways in our lives. And He's given us these things for a purpose. Not so that we can be, holding on for ourselves, but so that we can generously, out of the overflowing of the abundance of which God has given us in time, talent, and treasure, generously give to others, generously impact the people's lives with that which He has given us. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be looking at focusing on how we can make an impact through generosity. By being people of generosity. By being people who give generously of our time, our talent, and our treasure. We need to be people who live generously. We're going to be going together, we're going to be looking together. Our discussion today is based off of Ephesians 5, 1 through 2. Ephesians 5, 1 through 2. We're going to read this together. You can read it silently as I read it aloud. Watch what God does. Watch what God does. And then do it. Like children who learn proper behavior from their parents. Mostly, what God does is love you. Keep company with Him and learn a life of love. Observe how Christ loved us. His love was not cautious, but extravagant. He didn't love in order to get something from us, but to give everything of Himself to us. Love like that. Notice here that our first point comes from the very first phrase here in this passage, and that's this. We should see God's generosity. We should see God's generosity in our own lives. Go back to the first part of this verse. It says, watch what God does. Observe, see the many ways in which God has so generously been so generous to each of us. God is our perfect example. He's the ultimate example, the ultimate model when it comes to really, you name it in life, but specifically today as we look at what it means to be generous. God's the perfect model. He's the perfect example of what it means to be generous. He is so generous with each of us. Watch, it says. Watch God. Observe and see and read and know and acknowledge the many ways in which He has generously given to you, in which He has generously given to me. There's so many models, examples, both good and bad in life, which we can watch, which we can observe, which we learn from, both good and bad. One of the negative ones, one of the ways of the bad models that we can learn from is Ebenezer Scrooge, right? We know the familiar Christmas tale of Ebenezer Scrooge. And I think it's interesting that this is a Christmas tale, isn't it? It's a Christmas tale in which you see the man, Ebenezer Scrooge, is so wealthy. He has so much. He's been given so much, and yet he's so stingy. He's so stingy with what he has. And it's kind of interesting because it's a Christmas tale. And you start to think about, why would this be a tale, it would be a story at Christmas time? Because Christmas is about what? First of all, it's about the gift of salvation, the gift of Christ who came. It's about a time of giving. It's a time of giving. And so, of course, that's the time in which we talk about, which we hear the familiar tale of, correct picture, Ebenezer Scrooge. Because he was the opposite. He was the opposite of being generous at the beginning of the story. But by the end of the story, Ebenezer Scrooge was a generous, generous man. And through his generosity, he made an impact on the lives of the people around him and on the lives of the people within his community. Ebenezer Scrooge. A good example also of what it means to be generous. This is my grandmother. And when I think of, I don't know about you, but when I think of times, her name's Eloise Barnes, my grandmother, and when I think of people who are most generous in my life, a great model of generosity in my life, it would be my grandmother. My grandmother. When it comes to birthdays or Christmas, I don't know about you, but there's those gifts from those particular people that, wow, you just kind of get a little giddy about, I can't wait until I get the gift from her. I can't wait until I get the gift from that person. Like, that's the big one. That's the one that all my hope is on. Man, it's going to be a great birthday or a great Christmas if I get an awesome gift from that person. Because I can expect an awesome gift from that person. That person knows how to give. And they particularly know me well, so they know what a great gift would be for me. And that would be my grandmother. For my birthday every year, my grandmother has given me her amazing chocolate cake roll. It's a cake roll that she only makes once a year. When she makes a whole bunch of them, but it's only on around the time of my birthday. And even though we live states away, she'll ship that thing to me, frozen. Dry ice in there. And I look forward to every single birthday that cake roll that my grandmother gives. And my grandmother has been known to also give some amazing gifts. Some awesome gifts. I'm 13 years old and I got a 3-wheeler. I mean, that's the kind of gifts that I expect from my grandmother. Because she's an awesome gift giver. She's an awesome gift giver. She's a generous gift giver. A great model of what it means to be generous with all that God has blessed her with. The overflowing that God has blessed her with, she is so generous by giving it back to others. Another great example, no picture, another great example is that of Bill Gates. Now, Bill Gates is one of the richest men in the world, worth over $70 billion. But several years ago, he signed a pledge called the Giving Pledge. And several billionaires signed this pledge. He signed this pledge where he pledged to give away all of his wealth by the time which he passed away. All of his wealth giving away within his lifetime. He's already given away $30 billion, almost half of his wealth, or a quarter of his wealth at this point. $30 billion he's already given away. He gives, and he's given it to his foundation that he set up. And he's used it to help fight AIDS, help fight poverty, help with education in our society. He's used it. He's used it to impact the lives of others. Yes, he's been given so much monetarily. And you think to yourself, well, I'm not Bill Gates, right? I mean, I don't have $70 billion laying around, right? But we're not Bill Gates, and God doesn't ask us to be Bill Gates. But he's given all of his wealth away. He's promised to give all of his wealth away. Could we even think about doing something like that? Could we even think about being that kind of generosity? I don't know about you, but that kind of generosity kind of blows my mind. He's promised to give away everything. Everything. In order to impact the lives of others. That's being generous. Being generous for the purpose of impacting the lives of others. A great example of what it means. This brings us to our second point today, and that's this. We should reflect God's generosity. We should reflect God's generosity. Notice back up here at Ephesians 5:1. And then do it. And then do it like children who learn proper behavior from their parents. We're to watch it. Watch and see how God is generous. And then we're to turn around after observing, after watching the model that is Christ, we're to turn around and do it. Do the same in which we have seen. We're to be generous in the same way in which God has been generous to us. We're to impact people's lives in the same way in which God has impacted our lives. We're to watch it. We're to observe Christ in the way in which He has generously impacted our lives, and He's generously impacted mine. As I hope that He has generously impacted you, allowed Him to generously impact yours. And we're to see the fact that He's impacted our lives so much, and we're to turn around and do the same thing, impact the lives of those in which we come in contact with every day. We're to reflect the generosity of Christ in our own lives, like a mirror. A couple weeks ago, last week, the state fair, or the county fair, Kern County Fair, finished up. And I don't know, but you've ever been in one of those like crazy mirror things, rooms at the fair? Yeah, you go into the whimsical, crazy mirror rooms, and there's all kinds of bended mirrors in there, and you look into that mirror, and you look at the mirror, and things aren't right. Right? I mean, you're either a little like, hourglass shaped, like to the extreme, or you're completely opposite. Small head and big right in the middle, and small down here. It may be wavy and off. The whimsical mirrors, you look at them, and the reflection's not reality. The reflection isn't exactly what it should be. Right? Or sometimes, you may have, as you look at yourself in the mirror sometimes, or in the morning, there may be a smudge on the mirror. There may be a smudge that kind of doesn't make it look right. It's a little fuzzy. Your reflection's a little fuzzy. It's a little off. It's a little skewed. And the same thing is true in each of our lives when it comes to being people of generosity. Sometimes it's a little off from reality. Even though God has blessed us, God has generally given to us both in time, talent, and treasure, we're not reflecting correctly back. We're not reflecting exactly all the image and the generosity that God has given us. Isn't being reflected off onto others. And with that, the saving knowledge and the life and the joy that Christ gives and the forgiveness that Christ offers and the grace that Christ gives us isn't reflected back onto others. Who Christ isn't reflected correctly back onto others if we are not willing to reflect correctly that which all God has given us back onto the lives of others. We need to correctly reflect the generosity that God has given us in time, talent, and treasure. You need to correctly reflect that. And you may say, you know what, but I'm looking at my bank account. What are you talking about? Whoa! I got nothing extra to give. There's nothing there. I got nothing extra to give at all. You have no idea what you're talking about. The truth is that God has given us so much. We're the wealthiest people in the world. It doesn't matter if it's as little as a widow's mite. It doesn't matter how small it is, but God has given us so much. God just asked us to give a portion and reflect a portion of what He has so generously given to each of us. Or you may think, yeah, but I'm just not skilled. I'm not knowledgeable in that way in order to help. I'm not to help in that way or to help or in that particular ministry or with those particular people. I don't know. I don't know enough. I don't know about the Bible to help out in children's area. I don't know enough of the Bible to go and help out in small groups. I don't know. I'm not trained. I'm not skilled in that way. You may be thinking. The truth is that God has given us all that we need. God has given us all that we need to make an impact, to generously make an impact on the lives of others. He's given us all that we need. And you may think, well, but yeah, I just don't have enough time. Yeah, I'm so busy. I'm so busy with life and stuff. Man, you have no idea what my calendar looks like. You have no clue. I just don't have enough time to serve in that way. I don't have enough time to talk or to have a conversation with that great person who has this need. I don't have enough time. I'm too busy with my own life. I don't have enough time to give time to others. And Christ says, I've so generously given of my time to you. You can't spare a moment to impact the life of somebody else for eternity? I offer eternity, eternity, forever to you. When you turn your life over to me, you don't have a moment in this life to impact the lives of someone else. God says, I've given you all. I've given you all that you need. Go. Make an impact. Do it generously. Notice here Moses. He's a great example. Great example in a lot of ways, but particularly when it comes to this topic. I want to read here Exodus 4, 1 through 8. And Moses was a guy who came up with some excuses. He came up with some excuses as to why he wasn't skilled, why he wasn't the guy for the job. Let's see here. Exodus 4, 1 through 8. Moses answered. He said, what if they do not believe me or listen to me and say, the Lord did not appear to you? Then the Lord said to him, what is it that's in your hand? A staff? He replied. The Lord said, throw it on the ground. Moses threw it on the ground, and it became a snake, and he ran from it. And then the Lord said to him, reach your hand in to take it by the tail. So Moses reached out and took hold of the snake, and it turned back into a staff in his hand. This, said the Lord, is so that they may believe that the Lord, the God of the father of their fathers, the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has appeared to you. God gave Moses what he needed. He came up with excuse after excuse after excuse. He came up and he said, hey, God, I have a stuttering problem. I'm not the guy. I can't communicate your message because I can't communicate well. So God said, hey, I'm going to answer that. I'm going to give you a guy that's going to speak on your behalf. He's going to help you speak for you. He came up with an excuse after excuse as to why he wasn't the guy, why he didn't have what it took, why he didn't have the time, talent, or treasure in order to lead God's people out of slavery and into the promised land. And God said, what? He came up with an excuse. Moses, the great excuse maker, came up with an excuse. Well, what if they don't believe me? What if they don't want to listen to me, God? He says, hey, what's in your right hand, Moses? I've given you everything. Everything you need. Just look at what I've given you. Don't look at the things that you say you don't have, but look at that which I've given you. I've given you everything you need to accomplish my mission, my calling for you. I've generously given you everything you need in order to impact these people's lives. Don't make excuses. Don't focus on what you don't have. Focus what's in your right hand. Focus what I've already given you. And God has graciously, generously given so much to each of us. We're without excuse because He's given us everything that we need in order to reflect back the generosity that is Christ. In order to reflect back the grace, the forgiveness, the love, the generous love that Christ offers each of us. This brings us to our third point, and that's this. We should experience God's generosity. We should experience God's generosity. Notice back here in the first part of Ephesians 5, verse 2. Mostly, what God does is love you. Keep company with Him and learn a life of love. Have you experienced God's generous love? You experienced God's generous love in your life? And maybe you have, but it's been a while. You don't think about it often. And maybe you've never experienced the love, the generous love that Christ offers each of us. And God sent His one and only Son generously out of love for you and for me, so that we could spend from now and eternity generously forever with Him, in relationship with Him. Out of the abundance of the love of God and the love through Christ, God has so generously offers salvation to you and me when we turn our lives over to Him. He offers us eternity. He offers us eternity. That's some generous love right there. Even though we don't deserve it under any circumstances, we don't deserve it at all. God graciously gives of His mercy, His grace, His forgiveness, and His love to each of us daily in each of our lives. Notice here, 1 John 1:9 says, "But if we confess our sins to Him, He can be depended on to forgive us and to cleanse us from every wrong." And it is perfect and proper for God to do this for us because Christ died to wash away our sins. Psalms 24:1, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. The world and all of its people belong to Him." He is so gracious to offer us His amazing love. That we don't deserve under any circumstances. His amazing grace and His amazing forgiveness. He offers it generously, daily, without anything that we deserve in any way, shape, or form. He offers it to you, to me. I don't know about you, but I'm number one on the list of mess-ups. I mess up on a daily basis. I say the wrong things, do the wrong things with the wrong attitude or the wrong motivation. We're all on the list. We're a room full of mess-ups. That's who we are. Don't kid yourself. And if you are kidding yourself, that means you're probably messing up. And you want to hide it with some pride, which is a mess-up. We're all mess-ups. We deserve nothing. But daily, God forgives me for my mess-ups, for my screw-ups, for my missteps, my stumbles. God offers that same forgiveness and grace and love to each of us generously. On no part of our own, God offers us that. Have you experienced the love, the generous love of Christ? Have you experienced the generous grace that God offers each of us? Have you experienced the generous forgiveness that comes only through a relationship with Christ? All you have to do is turn your life over to Him. All you have to do is rededicate your life to Him. All you have to do is just ask, God, forgive me. I want to walk the right path to Him. All we have to do is accept it. All we have to do is accept His love, His generous love. All we have to do is accept His generous grace. All we have to do is accept His generous forgiveness. This brings us to our final point today, and that's this. We should give like Christ extravagantly. We should generously give like Christ. With extravagance. Let's look back here at the second part of verse 2, Ephesians 5, verse 2. Observe how Christ loved us. His love was not cautious. It wasn't hesitant. He wasn't Scrooge. He wasn't holding back. Not cautious, but extravagant. I'm going to repeat that again. His love was not cautious. It was extravagant. He didn't love in order to get something from us, but to give everything of himself to us. Love like that. Those who give most freely live most fully. Those who give most freely live most fully. When it comes to being generous, God is without struggle. He's extravagant. And sometimes we're selfish with that which we've been blessed with, our time, talent, and treasures that God has given us. But God says, don't be a Scrooge about it. Don't be selfish with it. Don't hold on to that which or a portion of which or all of which I've given you. No, give it away extravagantly. And you know, I've noticed this truth in life. When we're generous people, when we're extravagant with our time, talent, and treasures, when we're extravagant and give away for the purposes of Christ, give away to impact the lives of others freely and generously, God frees us up. And it comes back to us. Scripture tells us it will come back to us tenfold. Tenfold. Well, when we give it away freely, it comes back to us. God blesses us. God gives us more time, talent, and treasures in so many more ways. He enlarges our world. He enlarges our territory because He's entrusted us with this, and we've decided, you know what, I'm going to give it as you've asked me to. We need to be like Christ and give extravagantly. There's one thing in particular. I don't know, something about food. I'm really selfish about food. It's kind of weird. I'm not sure why. I know there's an issue there, but one thing in particular I can definitely tell you that I'm very selfish with. But Girl Scout Thin Mint cookies. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of guy that when it comes to Girl Scout Thin Mint cookies, you know, I love Girl Scout Thin Mint cookies. And unfortunately, Girl Scout cookies only come out once a year. It really stinks. But when Girl Scout cookies come out, especially Thin Mint cookies come out, I buy a case. You gotta have 12. Because you put them in the freezer, and what I like to do, it's always my hope and my goal. It never works out, but it's always my goal is to, you have 12, you can have one a month. One box a month. You keep them in the freezer, you open up one box a month, and you can go all year because they only sell it once a year. So you gotta kind of pace it out so you get back to the next time they're on sale. And you know, I buy these cookies for me. They're my Girl Scout cookies. And it's funny because sometimes I open up the freezer and you know, like I know how many boxes I should have. I know the ones that are open and the ones, you know, you have one open. If I finish the box, okay, now I have to wait till the end of the month. So start of the next month, I can open up another one. But I go in the middle of the month and there shouldn't be a box open, and I go in there and I see, there's an open box. And I wonder, you know what? I didn't open this box. This box should be open. And then I find out, you know, my lovely wife decided to selfishly open up my box of Thin Mints and eat of my precious Thin Mint cookies. Perfect mixture. Savory, mint, and chocolate. Try to put in donut. Just a second. your life are you selfish with? What areas of my life am I selfish with? What areas of your life are we Scrooges with? Is it our time? Is it our talent? Is it our treasure? God says, give it. Give it generously. Give it extravagantly, and I will bless you tenfold. God says, give it. Give it extravagantly. Give it generously to impact the lives of others. God says, give it. Give it the same proportion which I have given to you. And don't kid yourselves. It's all His. All of our time, all of our talents, all of our treasures, it's all His. He's allowed us to borrow it. He's allowed us to hold on to it. He's allowed us to distribute it, to give it, to impact the lives of others. We need to be people who are known as generous. As we know God